1. Pre-Islamic Arabia, before 7th century CE. Geography and early inhabitants. The Arabian Peninsula, which today includes Saudi Arabia, has been inhabited for thousands of years. It is characterized by its vast deserts, including the Rub al-Khali, empty quarter, one of the largest sand deserts in the world, and its rugged mountains, especially in the western region known as the Hijaz. The harsh environment of the Arabian Peninsula shaped the lives of its early inhabitants, who primarily engaged in nomadic herding and trade. Early Arabian society was organized around tribes, which were the main social and political units. These tribes were often involved in conflicts over resources such as water and grazing land, but they also engaged in trade with neighboring regions. The Arabian Peninsula was strategically located between Africa, Asia, and Europe, making it a crossroads for trade routes. Religion and culture. Before the rise of Islam, the Arabian Peninsula was home to a variety of religious beliefs and practices. The most prominent form of religion was polytheism, with the worship of many gods and goddesses, often associated with natural elements like the sun, moon, and stars. Each tribe had its own deities, and many of these were represented by idols. Mecca, located in the Hijaz region, was an important religious center even before Islam. It housed the Kaaba, a cube-shaped structure that contained numerous idols representing various gods. The Kaaba was a pilgrimage site, attracting tribes from across the peninsula. Despite the dominance of polytheism, there were also communities of Jews, Christians, and Zoroastrians in the region. 2. The birth and spread of Islam, 7th century. Prophet Muhammad and the Revelation. In the early 7th century, a significant transformation began in the Arabian Peninsula with the emergence of Islam. Muhammad, born in Mecca around 570 CE, was a member of the Quraysh tribe, a prominent tribe in the city. He worked as a merchant and was known for his honesty and integrity. At the age of 40, Muhammad began receiving revelations from Allah, God, through the angel Gabriel. These revelations, which continued for 23 years, formed the basis of the Quran, the holy book of Islam. Muhammad's message emphasized monotheism, the belief in one God, and called for the rejection of the polytheistic practices prevalent in Mecca. He also preached social justice, care for the poor, and moral integrity. The early Muslim community and the Hijra. Muhammad's message was initially met with resistance from the Quraysh leaders, who saw it as a threat to their social and economic power, particularly the pilgrimage trade centered around the Kaaba. As a result, Muhammad and his followers faced persecution in Mecca. In 622 CE, Muhammad and his followers, known as Muslims, migrated to the city of Yathrib, later renamed Medina. This event, known as the Hijra, marks the beginning of the Islamic calendar. In Medina, Muhammad established a community based on Islamic principles and became both a religious and political leader. The Muslim community grew rapidly as more people converted to Islam. Conquest of Mecca and the spread of Islam. In 630 CE, Muhammad led a large army back to Mecca, where the city's leaders surrendered without a fight. The Kaaba was cleansed of its idols, and Mecca became the spiritual center of Islam. Muhammad's return to Mecca solidified his leadership and marked the beginning of Islam's spread across the Arabian Peninsula. Following Muhammad's death in 632 CE, his successors, known as caliphs, continued to spread Islam through military conquest and peaceful conversion. The Rashidun Caliphate, the first Islamic state, quickly expanded beyond Arabia, laying the foundations for the vast Islamic empires that would follow. 3. The Islamic Caliphates and regional powers, 7th to 18th centuries. The Rashidun, Umayyad, and Abbasid Caliphates. The early Islamic caliphates played a crucial role in shaping the Arabian Peninsula's history and the wider Islamic world. Rashidun Caliphate, 632 to 661 CE. After Muhammad's death, the Rashidun Caliphate, led by the first four caliphs who were close companions of Muhammad, governed the Arabian Peninsula. They focused on expanding the Islamic State, conquering large parts of the Byzantine and Sasanian empires. Umayyad Caliphate, 661 to 750 CE. The Umayyad dynasty, based in Damascus, expanded the Islamic Empire even further, reaching as far as Spain in the west and India in the east. The Umayyads emphasized Arab culture and language, and their reign saw the establishment of Arabic as the lingua franca of the Islamic world. Abbasid Caliphate, 750-1258 CE. The Abbasids overthrew the Umayyads and moved the capital to Baghdad. The Abbasid period is often regarded as the golden age of Islam, characterized by advancements in science, literature, and philosophy. The Hijaz region, including Mecca and Medina, remained under Abbasid control and continued to be the religious heartland of Islam. The Hijaz, Najd, and the fragmentation of power. While the coastal regions of the Arabian Peninsula, particularly the Hijaz, were under the control of the caliphates, the interior regions like Najd remained relatively isolated and fragmented. The Najd was dominated by Bedouin tribes, who maintained their independence and traditional way of life. Over time, the Abbasid Caliphate weakened, and regional powers began to assert their authority. In the Hijaz, local rulers, often under the nominal suzerainty of larger empires, governed Mecca and Medina. These rulers managed the holy cities and oversaw the Hajj pilgrimage, which continued to attract Muslims from across the world. Ottoman influence and control. In the 16th century, the Ottoman Empire, based in Istanbul, extended its influence over the Arabian Peninsula. The Ottomans were Sunni Muslims and considered themselves the protectors of the Islamic holy sites. They established control over the Hijaz, securing the pilgrimage routes and managing the annual Hajj. However, Ottoman influence was primarily limited to the coastal regions and the holy cities, while the interior remained largely autonomous. 4. The rise of the Saudi state, 18th to 20th centuries. The First Saudi State, 1744 to 1818. The origins of modern Saudi Arabia can be traced back to the 18th century, with the alliance between Muhammad ibn Saud, a local chieftain in the Najd region, and Muhammad ibn Abd al-Wahhab, a religious reformer. Ibn Abd al-Wahhab advocated for a return to the pure practices of early Islam, free from what he saw as corruptions and innovations. This religious movement, known as Wahhabism, became the foundation of the Saudi state. In 1744, Muhammad ibn Saud and Ibn Abd al-Wahhab formed a pact, combining religious and political power. This alliance led to the establishment of the first Saudi state, centered in Diriyah, near modern-day Riyadh. The state expanded rapidly across Najd and into other parts of the Arabian Peninsula, including the Hijaz. However, the growing power of the Saudi state alarmed the Ottoman Empire, which launched a military campaign to crush it. In 1818, Ottoman forces captured Diriyah, bringing the first Saudi state to an end. The Second Saudi State, 1824 to 1891. Despite the fall of the First Saudi State, the Al Saud family continued to wield influence in the region. In 1824, Turki ibn Abdullah, a descendant of Muhammad ibn Saud, established the Second Saudi State, with Riyadh as its capital. The state regained control over much of the Najd region and maintained its alliance with the Wahhabi religious movement. The Second Saudi State was marked by internal conflicts, including power struggles within the Al Saud family and wars with rival tribes. These conflicts eventually led to the decline of the state in the late 19th century. In 1891, the Al-Rashid family, another powerful tribal dynasty, defeated the Saudis, forcing them into exile in Kuwait. The unification and establishment of the Third Saudi State, 1902 to 1932. The modern Kingdom of Saudi Arabia began with the efforts of Abdulaziz ibn Saud, a young and determined leader of the Al Saud family. In 1902, Ibn Saud, with a small group of followers, launched a daring raid to recapture Riyadh, the former capital of the Saudi state. This marked the beginning of the Third Saudi State. Over the next 3 decades, Ibn Saud embarked on a series of military campaigns and political maneuvers to unify the Arabian Peninsula under his rule. He successfully defeated rival tribes and leaders, including the Al-Rashid family, and extended his control over Najd, the eastern province, and eventually the Hijaz, which he captured in 1925. The conquest of the Hijaz, including the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, was a significant achievement, as it consolidated Ibn Saud's power and legitimacy. On September 23, 1932, Abdulaziz ibn Saud formally declared the establishment of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, uniting the disparate regions of the Arabian Peninsula into a single nation-state. He became the first king of Saudi Arabia, and the country adopted a government based on Islamic law, Sharia. 5. Modern Saudi Arabia, 1932-present. Discovery of oil and economic transformation. The discovery of oil in Saudi Arabia in 1938 had a profound impact on the country's development and its role in the world. Oil exploration began in the eastern province, and soon massive oil reserves were discovered, making Saudi Arabia one of the largest oil producers in the world. The state-owned Saudi Aramco, originally a joint venture with American companies, became a global oil giant. Oil revenues transformed Saudi Arabia from a relatively poor desert kingdom into one of the world's wealthiest nations. The influx of wealth funded extensive infrastructure projects, including roads, schools, hospitals, and airports. The Saudi government also invested in social services, providing free education and healthcare to its citizens. Riyadh, the capital, and other major cities like Jeddah and Dhahran saw rapid urbanization and modernization. Social and political development. Despite its rapid modernization, Saudi Arabia has maintained a conservative social and political structure. The country is an absolute monarchy, with the king holding almost complete power. The royal family, the Al Saud, has ruled Saudi Arabia since its founding, and key positions in the government are typically held by members of the family. Saudi Arabia adheres to a strict interpretation of Sunni Islam, influenced by the Wahhabi movement. The kingdom's legal system is based on Sharia law, and the religious establishment plays a significant role in both the government and society. Social norms in Saudi Arabia have traditionally been very conservative, with restrictions on women's rights, freedom of expression, and religious practices for non-Muslims. Foreign relations and regional influence. As the largest and wealthiest country in the Arabian Peninsula, Saudi Arabia has played a leading role in regional and global politics. The kingdom is a founding member of the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, and the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. Saudi Arabia's vast oil reserves have given it significant influence in global energy markets. Saudi Arabia has also been a key ally of the United States and other Western countries, particularly during the Cold War, when it aligned with the West against the Soviet Union. The kingdom has used its wealth to support allies and extend its influence across the Muslim world. However, Saudi Arabia has also faced challenges, including regional conflicts and rivalries, particularly with Iran. The Saudi-Iranian rivalry has shaped much of the geopolitics of the Middle East, with both countries supporting opposing sides in conflicts in countries like Yemen, Syria, and Iraq. Economic diversification and Vision 2030. In recent years, Saudi Arabia has recognized the need to diversify its economy and reduce its dependence on oil. This has become especially urgent due to fluctuating oil prices and the global push towards renewable energy. In 2016, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, often referred to as MBS, launched Vision 2030, an ambitious plan to transform the Saudi economy and society. Vision 2030 aims to diversify the economy by developing sectors such as tourism, entertainment, and technology. It also seeks to increase foreign investment and create jobs for the country's young population. As part of Vision 2030, the Saudi government has implemented social reforms, including expanding women's rights. Women have been granted the right to drive, and more opportunities have been created for women in education and the workforce. The kingdom has also begun to promote tourism, including opening up to non-religious tourists for the first time. However, these reforms have been accompanied by a crackdown on dissent, with the government targeting activists, journalists, and religious figures who challenge the state's authority. Saudi Arabia has also faced international criticism for its human rights record, particularly following the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018. Recent developments and future challenges. Saudi Arabia continues to navigate a complex set of challenges as it moves forward. The kingdom is grappling with the need to balance modernization and economic diversification with its conservative social and religious norms. The global energy landscape is also changing, with growing demand for renewable energy and efforts to combat climate change. Regionally, Saudi Arabia remains a key player in Middle Eastern politics. The kingdom is involved in several conflicts, including the ongoing war in Yemen, and is working to counter Iranian influence in the region. At the same time, Saudi Arabia is seeking to improve relations with other countries, including Israel, as part of broader efforts to stabilize the region. Conclusion. The history of Saudi Arabia is a story of remarkable transformation. From its roots as a tribal society in the deserts of the Arabian Peninsula, the kingdom has emerged as a global economic powerhouse and the heartland of Islam. Saudi Arabia's strategic importance, wealth, and religious significance have made it a key player on the world stage. As it faces the future, the kingdom will continue to grapple with the challenges of modernization, economic diversification, and its role in a rapidly changing world.